Welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. I really hope you're all keeping well at this time. I'm here today to answer as many questions as I can, so please pop any you may have in the comments box below or use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice after this session, please join the official Intuit Quickbooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business advisors are on hand 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated COVID-19 information site. To access this, if you go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down and click on the big Learn More button under the header Support for You and Your Business During COVID-19. My name is Judith Dugdale and I'm a chartered accountant, and this is my fifth Ask the Expert session. So some of you will have seen me before. For those of you who don't, I specialise in cloud accounting and I head up the digital solutions team at MHA Moore and Smalley. Moore and Smalley are a large independent firm of chartered accountants based in the northwest of England, covering Cumbria, Lancashire, Merseyside and Greater Manchester. And we offer every service you would expect from a large independent firm, plus a bit more, including things like outsourced payroll, outsourced bookkeeping, independent financial advisors, and we have an in-house corporate finance team that helps businesses with buying and selling their businesses. What I do is mainly deal with cloud accounting. So we have a team of 11 and we look after small businesses across all sectors. The only thing they have to have in common is that they use QuickBooks Online. What this does is it allows us to be very specific with our advice, and it also means that we are specialists in the advice that we are offering. We have a Intuit certified trainer who trains all our clients when we implement new systems, and then the rest of the team help those businesses continue to make the most out of the software, as well as doing ongoing business advisory services. Before we get into me answering your questions, I just want to do a little bit of an update on a couple of things that have been coming up day to day from my clients, and that'll be a bit of a touch on flexible furlough, which has started today. So I just wanted to update people on how that's going to work, and then I just wanted to update on VAT as the deferral scheme finished yesterday. Just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of when their new VAT returns will be due, and also anything to do with MTD. I know it's gone very quiet on that front in the last sort of six months. I just wanted to make sure everybody's up to date with making tax digital. So very briefly on the flexible furlough, that has started as of today. So the job retention scheme that was brought in on the 23rd of March, that is continuing, but it's under a slightly different guise. So unlike before, you can now have staff that are furloughed that come in to work for you on a part-time basis. And the hours that they don't work for you, which they normally would have done pre-COVID, you can still furlough them. We've been asked a lot of information about how do we detail this, what information do we need to send our staff, and how do we record this so that if HMRC come and ask us at a later date, we've got all the proof and backup there to justify any claims we've made. So unfortunately, there isn't a great deal of detail on exactly what records that you have to keep, but I think you've just got to think of it from an outsider's point of view, looking at it, what would they expect you to have kept? So we're advising our clients to make sure that they document conversations with clients, be that via email, via letters, just to explain the hours that they would normally work, and then the hours that they're going to be asked to work, and confirming that the time where they're not at work, they will be still furloughed. This then means that when HMRC come back in, you've got evidence of communication with your staff, which is really important. You then ideally need a way to document the hours that they ended up working, because life changes and not necessarily the 15 hours that you might have needed somebody for will actually come to fruition. You might need a bit more, you might need a little bit less. Therefore, it's important to try and document those hours actually worked on the job on a week-to-week basis. I would recommend that if you've got a clock in, clock out system, which quite a few hospitality and warehouse and manufacturing companies will have, use that, keep those records. That is perfectly legitimate, and it's a really great automated record the hours that people have worked. If you don't have that information, don't panic. You could do something as simple as a spreadsheet. Also, if you're using QuickBooks Online, have a look at the employee section there. Even if you don't use the payroll, the employee section allows you to add employees in, and then you can do timesheets. And that'd be a great way to record exactly what time people are working. And you don't have to mark that as billable to a customer. You can tick a little box that says that it's non-billable time, and you can simply, for each employee, put the hours they worked under furlough, and then the hours that they didn't work under furlough, the hours that they were actually in the office or in the shop or in the bar, whatever it might be that your business does. So I hope that clears that up a little bit. Just to remind you that if you do have a furlough claim to make for up to the period ending the 30th of June, you have to make that by the 31st of July. And then ongoing, it's a monthly return that you need to do. On the VAT side of things, I'll start with a brief reminder about the deferral scheme. So as soon as lockdown happened, HMRC and the government were very quick to offer a VAT deferral scheme. And they said that related to any amounts owed between the 28th of February and the 30th of June. What not everybody is totally aware of is that excludes the 31st of May VAT return and the 30th of June VAT return. I think some people thought that the 31st of May in particular was included in that, and it's not. So if you had a 28th of February VAT return, which you deferred, and you did this by cancelling your direct debit with HMRC, please make sure you go in and reinstate that direct debit, because the payment for your 31st of May VAT return is due by the 12th of July. So you've got less than 12 days to get that paid. If you can't get the direct debit set up in time, do an online payment or ring them up or do a telephone payment, whatever it might be, but make sure that is paid on time. And then the same for those that are doing a June return in July, that is due by, you've got to file it by the 7th of August, and then you need to make sure the payment is set up so that it reaches them by the 12th of August. Again, if you've cancelled your direct debit for your 31st of March return, please make sure you reinstate that VAT return. Also, there has been a bit of confusion. I think some people thought that those returns that were deferred, so the February, March and April returns, some people didn't think they had to actually submit those returns. If you're one of those people, even though the payment is deferred, you have to submit it. So please make sure you just check your records and make sure that's been submitted and accepted by HMRC. Finally, I just wanted to briefly touch on the Making Tax Digital scheme. So this was brought in well over a year ago now. It started on the 1st of April, and the 30th of June 2019 were the first returns, in the first quarterly returns that had to be filed under MTD. HMRC were aware that not everybody had the right systems in place, and that it was hard for some people that had existing software that wasn't compliant to get it upgraded. So they did do a year's worth of soft landing. So there's been no penalties and no fines for anybody that has failed to submit under MTD, as long as you can prove you've tried your best to fulfil the recommendations. As of the 1st of April, and for periods starting from the 1st of April onwards, that period of grace has disappeared now, and we are basically waiting for HMRC to start challenging people who are not filing under MTD. Filing under MTD is two things. You have to register for MTD on the government website, and then you have to file under software. So you need to take your VAT return out directly from the software you're using and send it to HMRC. QuickBooks Online, fully compliant. Some people haven't realised that just because you file from QuickBooks or whatever software you use, it doesn't necessarily mean you are filing under MTD. You have to have gone to their website, HMRC's website, and signed up to be MTD compliant. Quick way to check is when you log into QuickBooks and you go in the taxes section, it will tell you whether you're filing under MTD or not on the right-hand side. And indeed, what's happening at the moment is if you go into your VAT return, it quite often asks you to sign up to MTD if you haven't already done so. So just a little plea. We don't want people falling foul of penalties and fines. It's a very, very simple process to sign up, and fines will start coming through. So please take a look and see what you need to do. one final important thing is if you're a new business and you set up, say, I don't know, a year and a half ago, your sales probably were well underneath the VAT registration threshold, which is £85,000 in any 12-month period. It's worth checking if you are a new business that you've not now breached those limits, and if so, you need to register for VAT and then you need to sign up for MTD. So enough of those bits of updates. I'm going to start taking some of your questions now. So please keep them coming through and we'll answer as many as we possibly can. I've got my first question is from Anton, and this is a Twitter direct message. And Anton says, I am a small business owner and I'm delighted to be told I can reopen our pub again. But is there anything financially I need to be in mind of? Repayment of loans, furlough, etc. So that's a really good question, Anton, and it totally depends on the support that you've been given. You may, in your business, have had existing loans with the bank, and quite a lot of financial institutions over the last 3 months have allowed people to have payment holidays. So it's worth, if you're one of those people and you've had a payment holiday, to just contact your bank and make sure you know when your payments will start up again. In terms of if you've taken out a C-bills loan, a coronavirus business interruption loan, if you've taken one of those out, then the payments are due each month, and you should look at the documentation to check on that. There's no interest on those for the first year. If you've taken a bounce back loan, there are no payments for the first year at all, and the interest is paid for you in the first year by the government. So again, no payments on that one. Furlough claims. If you've done furlough claims and you've had that money in, that is not repayable. That is your money to keep. It's a grant. You are taxed on that income. It is shown in your profit and loss account next year or whenever your year end is as income received. But obviously it will be offset against those wages that you have paid to your staff. If you had any grants from your local authority in terms of rates relief and rates rebates, they again are not refunded. You don't have to pay them back. They are grants for you to keep. Again, they will be taxed in your next set of accounts, either whether you're self-employed or whether you're a limited company. Those grant monies received are taxable, but they are not repayable. So really, to answer your question, you need to be mindful of any loans that you've taken out and just make sure you know when those repayments will start. I got a message from Yvonne in Facebook Messenger. She says, hello, Judith. In QuickBooks, where do I record a VAT repayment, please? So, Yvonne, within QuickBooks, you'll have done your VAT return, and once it's been filed, there is an amount that goes into the VAT suspense. When the payment comes through from HMRC into your bank account, from the bank feed, you should be able to record that repayment against the VAT suspense. You don't need to put it as other income or anything like that. It will just offset against the VAT balance that is on that suspense account. So hopefully that makes sense. The next question has come through from Martha. This is an Instagram direct message. She says, morning, Judith. Thank you for the help so far. I understand that there is talk of reducing tax to 17%. Is it likely for that to rise again? That's a really good question, Martha, and it's something across the industry we're waiting to hear a little bit more about. So probably 3-4 years ago, maybe even, the government then in charge announced that the current rate of tax, which was 20%, would be dropping to 19% and then eventually would drop down to 17%. It was due to drop to 17% as of the 6th of April 2020. Now that has been deferred. We haven't had that drop yet, and we don't know exactly when it will happen, if indeed it will happen. In terms of it rising from the 19% that it is at the moment for corporation tax, there's been no guidance. We don't know whether it's going to increase or not. I guess we all need to be wary that the government have given so much support to businesses and individuals through this pandemic, that they have massively overspent. They've had to borrow a lot of money to provide that support, and at some point they need to try and reclaim some of that money, and one of the ways to do that will be through taxes. But that could be anything from personal tax rises, national insurance tax rises, corporation tax rises. So we don't know, and hopefully it won't be for a while, because I know the government will definitely want to try and keep the economy going, and increasing taxes straight away could be detrimental to the growth of the economy. So hopefully we will see current rates here to stay for a short while, but I think everybody does need to be aware that it's likely in the future that they could rise. I've got a message now from Corey, which is come from Twitter, direct message. Hi Judith, can we continue to rotate employees on furlough with the new rules about flexible furlough being introduced? Yes, Corey, you can, as long as an employee has already been furloughed, and that they had to have been furloughed by the 10th of June, because everybody had to have done at least 3 weeks by the end of June. So anybody furloughed in March, April, May or June can be re-furloughed in July, August, September, October. You can have somebody furloughed for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, bring them back, and then put somebody else on furlough. And in fact, I know quite a lot of businesses have done this already and are going to do this even more so under the flexible terms. It's to sort of share out the furlough amongst staff where they've got more than one member of staff, so that they all get the benefits of working and they all get the benefits of having some of that time at home, albeit on 80% wages. So yes, you can rotate your employees. Got a message from Amil on Facebook Messenger. Hi, in order to file our VAT return with HMRC, do I need to sign up for MTD with QuickBooks? How does that work? So Amil, yes, this follows on a bit from what I was saying earlier. It depends on your level of turnover and whether you've signed up for MTD. So if you turn over more than £85,000 of VATable sales in any 12-month period, you must file under MTD now. If you haven't already signed up, you have to go to gov.uk website. If you search sign up for MTD, a page will appear and you will put in some information. You'll need your government gateway ID and password, and then you will follow through, I think it's 3 or 4 screens, to confirm who you are and that you're signing up for MTD, and it will ask you if you have software in place that is compliant. If you use QuickBooks, then the answer to that is definitely yes. If you don't yet use QuickBooks but you're planning on doing so, click yes again, because it takes a few days for that notification from HMRC to come through to say that you're definitely signed up. And by that point, you'll have your QuickBooks up and running. Then in QuickBooks, you do need to click the button that signs you up for MTD within QuickBooks. Again, it's really simple. It's a quick button, and you will be prompted when you go into the taxes section of QuickBooks to do this. You go and you tick a button. You're saying there and then that you have signed up for MTD already. QuickBooks will then check with HMRC that you are indeed signed up for MTD, and it will ask you for your gateway and ID. Once all that information's in, you then will file your VAT return as you always have done if you've done it through QuickBooks before. If you've never done it through QuickBooks before, you go into the taxes section, you click on prepare a return, you check all the information you're happy with, and then the bottom right hand corner there's a submit to HMRC button, and you press that and off your VAT return goes. If you are not registered for MTD because you turn over less than £85,000, then you do not file under MTD, so therefore do not turn on the MTD within QuickBooks functionality. You just continue to file direct as you have done before. I hope that clears that bit up for you. If you've got any more questions on that, feel free to email me privately. My email address for purposes of these is digitalsolutions@moreandsmalley.co.uk. So I do understand that the MTD thing isn't exactly straightforward. My next question is from Danny Howes from Facebook Live. Good morning, Danny. If I tick the small employers relief in advanced QB, will it alter the previous journal entries from completed payrolls in previous months? I think if you have already submitted your RTI, so your real-time information submissions for those previous months, it will not change those previously submitted entries. And then you will get that employer's relief going forward. That is my understanding. However, I've not actually had anybody that's done this myself. Our clients will tick it at the start, so it's in place from straight away. So I would just probably suggest you ring the QuickBooks helpline just to double check that. What I do know is if you haven't had that relief in the months that you've done your RTI, it then does come through in the later months. Indeed, we've had clients in the past that haven't claimed it at all year, and they've managed to implement it right at the end of the tax year, and we've got the relief then. Another message here from Amya from Twitter direct message. Says, hello, Judith. Nice to see you again. Must we provide part-time work to all furloughed employees from the 1st of July? I mean, this is a really good question, actually, because a lot of the talk has been about how you can bring back your staff that are furloughed. You can bring them back part-time, and it's fantastic. But actually, for some businesses, they can't yet bring people back to work part-time. They aren't yet open, or they're not open up to the capacity doesn't warrant the staff. They wouldn't generate enough income to pay them. So it is worth remembering that you don't have to bring people back part-time. It is completely down to your business's circumstances. And if you don't or can't afford to bring those employees back to work in July, keep them furloughed and do your claim as normal. And the furlough claim will be the same in July as what you have done in the previous months. So that is, you will get 80% of their normal pay in the claim, including their employer's NI and the employer's pension. It is worth it's worth remembering that from August, you still can continue to keep them on furlough. You don't have to bring them back part-time in August either. But if you can, then the government trying to encourage people back to work. But if you don't, it's worth remembering that furlough claim for August, you will have to fund the employer's NI and the employer's pension contribution, whether they are working or whether they are furloughed. That's the change for August. Next question, Jaylene from Facebook Messenger says, hello, Judith. Do businesses contribute to the furlough, and is it mandatory to contribute after the 80% decreases, please? So currently, so this has been up to the end of June, and indeed in July, HMRC pay the full 80% of the furlough allowance that is refunded to the employees. So it's refunded to the government. So it's refunded to the business. The business then can choose to top up an employee's wage to their normal 100% rate. They don't have to, and most businesses have chosen to stick at paying their employees on furlough 80%, so that it's completely covered by the furlough claim. As you rightly say, the amount that the government are paying, the 80%, is going to reduce. So in August, as I just said, you still get the 80% on their salary, but you don't get the employer's NI or the employer's pension contribution. From the next month after that, so in September, the government won't give you 80% of the furloughed employees. They're going to give you 70%. You as an employer will have to make up the furlough pay to 80%. So you're going to have to pay 10% of their wages. In October, the government support drops to 60% of their normal pay, and furlough employees must receive 80% of their normal pay. So the employers will have to make that gap, bridge the gap, pay that extra 20%. So yes, the businesses are going to have to contribute to furlough once the government reduce their percentage. Thomas Watts from Facebook Live has asked a question. He says, hi, the very quick question. Is there anything in the pipeline regarding estimates showing when they've been viewed by a customer after the estimate has been sent? Many thanks, Tom. So, Tom, I'm not entirely sure whether there's anything in the pipeline. What I would say is because obviously if you send a sales invoice out, you can see when your customer has viewed that invoice, which is a really good tool and makes it fantastic for a business to see question why somebody's not paid. They've seen the invoice, why they're not paid. And I could understand that sending an estimate off to a customer, it would be really helpful if you could see whether they'd viewed that estimate or not. As I said, I'm not sure whether it's in the pipeline or not. What I do know is that you can, within the help function, propose things that you would like. And certainly accountants can do this as well. So it's maybe worth getting in touch with your accountant and asking them to put forward this as something that we would like. And then the way it works is the more people that ask for a function, the more popular it proves, the more likely it is to be introduced. So I tell you what, Tom, after this, I will go and I will ask for that request on your behalf as well. And the more people that do, the more likely it is to be introduced. If I do hear anything, I will put a bit of an update on the SMB community Facebook page for QuickBooks. The next message is from Clyde, and it's a Facebook Messenger message. Clyde says, good morning. How do we calculate the usual hours for employees whose hours and pay varies in relation to furlough? So, Clyde, it's the new flexible furlough, the calculation of normal hours is exactly the same as what you've been doing up until now. So you have to base it, where they're hourly paid and their hours do change, you have to base it on their annual average, or you can use the same hours that were worked the same month the previous year. What I would suggest is that if you are if you've been furloughing people and you continue to do so, I would use whatever hours that you were using in your previous furlough claims as their usual hours. I would use those as their usual hours going forward as well, just to avoid any confusion with HMRC in terms of why hours are changing. So I hope that helps. And then we've got time, I think, just for one more question, and this is from Vila from Facebook Live. Vila is asking, what records do we have to keep for sole traders and how do we keep them on QuickBooks? So, Vila, I'm not sure whether you're referring to bookkeeping records in general or whether you mean the furlough time of your employees and things. So, bookkeeping in general, Vila, you have to record all your sales and all your purchases and your bank transactions. That is incredibly important. If you're VAT registered, you need to record the VAT on every one of those transactions, whether it's no VAT, 20%, 0%. So if you use QuickBooks, QuickBooks will automatically store all that information for you as long as you put that information into the system. If you're a small sole trader and everything is going through the bank, and you're not necessarily sending out sales invoice, maybe you're a shop, you've got money coming through the till, you can pick up that information straight from the bank feed, and that goes into your income, and then you will deal with all your expenses as you pay them. You do need to keep copies of receipts for bookkeeping purposes. What I would recommend is that you use the receipt function within QuickBooks now. So you can take a picture on the mobile app, and that will upload the picture into QuickBooks, and then when the payment goes through the bank, it will match the two up, and the picture goes along with the expert. You can then dispose of the actual physical invoice. So I hope that helps. In terms of furlough, again, it's just a matter of recording employees' hours. So if you can use the employee function within QuickBooks, that'd be absolutely fine. But just remember that if you're not uploading invoices and things like that for your bookkeeping purposes, you must keep those, and you must keep them for 6 years. So I'm afraid we've run out of time today. Hopefully I've managed to answer your questions in a way that is helpful. I want to thank you very much for all your time today with us. If you've got any further questions still, you can get in touch with the QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or you can contact me at Moore and Smalley direct using the email digitalsolutions@mooreandsmalley.co.uk. Please note there's lots of advice for businesses on our website, which is mooreandsmalley.co.uk, including a COVID-19 hub. And finally, coming up tomorrow on Ask the Expert is Jamie Fraser, CEO and founder of 996 Solutions, a legal operations advisory service. He's a regular speaker within the legal technology and innovation communities, so make sure you tune in tomorrow and get some free business advice from a legal operations consultant. Just a reminder that we've got the official Intuit Quickbooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business advisors are on hand 24/7. Thank you once again for your time this morning. Please stay safe, everyone.